On Friday, November 15th, Netflix and Most Valuable Promotions bring you the highly anticipated heavyweight boxing mega event of the year. Jake El Gallo Paul will go toe-to-toe in the ring against Iron Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet. Don't miss this epic showdown live from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Watch Paul versus Tyson, Friday, November 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, live only on Netflix.
With Amex Platinum, you can enjoy access to dedicated card member entrances at select events because skipping the line makes you the star of game day. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex. Card member entrance access not limited to Amex Platinum card.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Vicki Connor. Together, we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And today, we are getting outside with Trail Mixed Collective, a group dedicated to creating space for women of color in outdoor sports. It has 3 chapters, one in Oregon, one in Washington, and one in California. It's also a group that I happen to be a part of. And so joining us today on the podcast is Vivian, Tang, and Jenny Bryan, 2 leaders of the Portland chapter of Trail Mixed. Vivian, Jenny, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks. It's great to be here.
Hi, thanks. This is Jenny.
Okay, so Vivian, would you mind kind of just explaining a little bit more about Trail Mixed and kind of its role in the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you kind of mentioned in your introduction, Trail Mix is actually a nonprofit organization focused on increasing access to outdoor sports for Black, Indigenous, and women of color. And its role in the community, as you mentioned, spans 3 states. But in each state, we have community leaders that help create events for Black, Indigenous, women of color, focusing around outdoor sports and community. There are other things that also happen in the background, including fundraising, working with brands, and just trying to really just create more community and making sure that women of color see themselves in these outdoor spaces and can meet with one another.
Jenny and Vivian, I'm really interested in how you each got involved in Trail Mixed and sort of what you're, I hear that you are, leaders in this organization, but what do you do for the group and how do you help people with that mission? So Jenny, Vivian, what can you tell us about that?
Vivian, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I have been involved with Trail Mix for the past 3 years. Back in November of 2021, I helped them start the Women of Color Trail Running Club here in Portland, Oregon. And I've also been one of their past community leaders where I held official events for Trail Mix, welcoming the community and, again, finding events that help and introduce women to different outdoor sports. And currently my role is a co-leader of the Run Club still. We hold twice a month trail runs in the city, and we also do some outdoor adventures. And I'll hand this over to Jenny to talk about her past roles and her continued involvement with the Run Club and how it's evolved as well.
So I became involved in Trail Mix about 2 years ago. I initially was just stalking Trail Mix, the Instagram, before the Run Club, before actually joining. I moved to Portland back in 2018, and I didn't know very many people here. Moving from Southern California, it was a bit of a culture shock moving to Portland, Oregon. So I have run before and was looking for community essentially. So I joined the run club for the first run in Forest Park. It was really challenging, but the group was so welcoming and so encouraging. I was encouraged to come back. I continued to come back over the next few months, and just seeing that the community that was built, especially the community that Vivian had put a lot of effort into, I really wanted to become more involved. So last year, because of the growing interest in the Oregon chapter and everything that was being done, they expanded. They created a role as a community coordinator. So I volunteered for that. So I don't know if it was mentioned previously, but Trail Mix is all volunteer led and run. So a lot of us have full time positions. So we're doing this all on our own free time. Um, so I decided to become more involved as a community coordinator. I help support the community leads that were here in Portland with their events. I also reached out to several different organizations that aligned with our mission statement. So, such as Friends of Tryon, for example. We also have Bike Park here in Portland, Oregon. So, organizing with those different groups to create, again, feeding into the mission of creating access here for women of color. So uh, I became a mom earlier this year, so I decided to to limit my role and became more involved in the Run Club. Vivian and I have had several conversations about the needs, and we also are really open to feedback here in the community because it is community run, and we heard feedback from individuals that they wanted to join the Run Club, but they didn't feel that they were quote unquote a runner. They were a bit intimidated by joining. So we decided to open up a hike option, which has been really popular here in Portland. We've seen several new individuals joining and have partnered with different run groups and different brands such as Hoka to lead, hike options, picnics, and all that here in Portland. So really trying to expand upon what community is, and so, while it is to create access in the sports, it's really about creating, community here.
I love to hear that the community focus is such a huge part. It sounds like such a huge part of what you do, and it's such an important thing for everybody, I think, to have, but especially people who feel like they don't have representation, I imagine, in these spaces. How do your community events work? How do you bring people into your community, and how do you create a space where people can feel not just welcome, but like encouraged, and that they can be a part of this too?
So there's different ways, it being community led and run. We really each year there's community leads that apply to be community leads in the different regions. So for Portland, really they're the ones. It's about sharing their experience. So they're not intended to be instructors. They're not intended to be experts in that particular sport. It's really just about sharing the space. And sharing their experiences, because we do have such a diverse group and such diverse backgrounds in terms of our experience in that sport. For example, I'm a runner, but by no means would I consider myself an expert runner or hiker, or I say I'm mediocre at everything usually. So it's, really about creating, just sharing that experience with others. So the community leads, that's exactly what they do. Last year we had, for example, a community lead that was very art focused. So a lot of we would go on hikes and draw, for example, or forage for materials. So it's really just about sharing those experiences. For the Run Club specifically, in terms of trying to create it so it's a more community focused, we try to be a club that's open to all paces. Again, we don't want it to make it something that's competitive. It's really just encouraging and being out there for each other and really just creating a space. Vivian, I'm not sure if you want to add to that.
Yeah. Adding to what Jenny said, we are really intentional about setting the expectations for events because around outdoor sports, there can be a lot of intimidation with like knowledge base and athletic performance. Our whole organization is very clear on focusing on community and having us get to know one another. This is not a space where we want to have a lot of competition or internal competition, which have to admit a lot of outdoor activity clubs, they can get really competitive, just by the nature of how you have to perform. And again, we are very intentional about setting expectations and extremely open to feedback. If somebody doesn't have a comfortable time, we do talk about it, and that's really important. I think that many of us don't have a lot of peers of color that are really into some of these outdoor sports. And we want to be a place where people can be open to learning and sharing and getting to know one another.
It's funny, Jenny and Vivian, I think over the past year and a half since I've joined Trail Mixed, a lot of my experiences, I've come back and actually talk about them on the podcast. And corresponding with that, Jamie's been like, "Why are you all of a sudden into running?" And I've had to be like, "That is because of Jenny and Vivian and the run club of Trail Mixed." So I remember that first run club, and that this was still when we were doing it at Mount Tabor. And again, I was so nervous. I was like, I am not really a runner. If we start going uphill, I'm going to be like the last person. I'm going to get left in the dust. And that was not the case whatsoever. You know, I love that we always start with some type of icebreaker, some introduction. With running specifically, there's always breaking points where we reconvene and check in with everyone. So that's awesome. And the best part is normally there's some type of food at the end, whether that's going and getting a meal, going and getting coffee. And I mean, who doesn't love that?
Yeah, we're very motivated in this group. But yeah, I think it's also just making it more of a comfortable space for everyone. And as Vivian said, you know, we're continuing to evolve with feedback that we receive from the community, and we really want to again create access in those shared experiences. There's been several times where we've held runs at different locations or led hikes to where the community has said, "I've never been here before, didn't know this was here." So or they create new friendships. We've seen friendships grow from trail mix. I know those that are really close in my circle now have all been met through this group, and so I'm really grateful. But again, going to really seeing how the community has grown has been really heartwarming. Because it does it really was created for the community again. And I think, in terms of being a runner, it really, to me, it doesn't matter like whether you're running at a fast pace, because we're that's just not what we're there for. Granted, we do have people that have shared, their progress and their achievements in running and races, and that's really great to see. But it's really just about the community encouragement that we can provide each other and support.
So, Vivian, how long have you been in Portland now?
I've been in Portland for 8.5 years now, and the Run Club has been going on for 3 years.
So I'm wondering, was there any type of equivalent of Trail Mix before Trail Mix had a Portland chapter? And why is this space needed here?
I've been involved with the outdoor community, specifically the running community, ever since I came to Portland. Run clubs were a major part of my life anywhere I moved, and there absolutely was nothing like Trail Mix. I pay attention to a lot of the national running organizations and community, and there really was no Black, Indigenous, women of color, or people of color run club that was focused in this group around the world, around the country. And in 2020, with a very divisive 2016 presidential administration, where they had inflammatory and xenophobic remarks, it absolutely was so upsetting that it made me feel very helpless. And I know a lot of people probably felt that way. That's why I thought for myself how to create a space that is inclusive, loving, and it reflected the values that I believed in. That's why I decided to create a running club specifically on trails for women of color. And that was also through Trail Mix. And, there really isn't like anything else like this around the country. Things started popping up after 2020, but creating this space in a place that I really cared about was so important to me. I have participated in many run clubs in Portland over the last 8 years, and a person of color is always a minority, 1 in 10 at the most. And when I created this run club, with another person, I knew no other women of color runners, even through these run clubs that I used to attend all the time. So when we started this, I knew nobody, and we're really excited to see people in the community show up. Like I said, it's very rare for people of color to have a lot of peers in these outdoor spaces. So this community space is really important for us to connect. So it's grown a lot, and it's really exciting to see. And also hear people like yourself, Vicky, say they find a lot of joy and have made long-term friendships.
For sure.
Jenny, we're talking about the importance of these spaces in the community and building such a beautiful opportunity for people to come out. How do you keep that going over the years? I feel like it's so easy for communities to get going and then kind of unravel. Does it take a lot of effort, or is there a certain strategy to keeping Trail Mixed running?
Yeah, I've actually thought about this a lot in the last few days is momentum and sustainability, right, in the community because you know, for example, me having to take a step back, I know Vivian and I are, we this also being volunteer run and led. I think it's the investment and those people that, what we have seen is those that have come back and the investment, they do feel invested now, right? As we make the space more welcoming and people to feel a sense of belonging. I think that's a big thing too, is that we see different I don't want to speak to different run clubs, but just different organizations or different stating that they're open to all. But it's really also creating, not just saying it, but also ensuring that people feel that sense of belonging within this club, because it does create those that investment almost from the community to keep coming back and to sustain it. Because while Vivian and I are quote unquote leaders, it really is something that is community led. We always encourage others to approach us to let us know what they'd like to see from it, because we don't want to be gatekeepers here either. So what we may enjoy might not be something that's beneficial for the community as a whole. So I think that's, and again, this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, as recently, is like, how do we keep ourselves energized as well, and the investment in our community? And again, I think it's by not just creating the space, but also making people feel like they belong.
So I'm curious, Vivian, what does kind of the future of Trail Mix, specifically also the Portland chapter here, do you have hopes for what it looks like or anything upcoming in the future?
I think that the Portland chapter will grow pretty organically as it is. Again, while my biggest involvement is with the Run Club, there are so many women here in this city that are experts, or they're just super big nerds about the sports that they love. And I think one of the things in our community that we always want to uplift is every person that's part of it. Whatever they bring to the table, we want to celebrate it. For example, like, you did your first triathlon, we want to celebrate that and share with others how amazing you are and how everyone else is. And have the people who learn about us, like, they go to, like, create little pockets within the community to kind of continue to blossom where people have their interests. So whether or not Portland evolves more for skiing or snowboarding or rock climbing, any of that can happen. And the goal is just to continue to uplift anyone who stays involved and continue to share what amazing, like, resources we have here. I think that is really exciting to see. And every year there's a new cohort of community leaders. I'm fascinated to see what each person brings to the table.
Yeah, and in terms of the mission or the goal is also to further expand what Portland looks like and create, this being volunteer led and run, it was started by, two individuals that, so it keeps expanding and growing, and the interest is to create leadership here, locally here in Portland, as well as further expand on the partnerships, the local partnerships, here as well. Because Trail Mix is one group. We're very encouraged to see other different affinity groups beginning to to grow as well and be created in these spaces. So continuing to partner with each other. It's I think of Pips Donuts, where they say community and not competition. So we're even though Trail Mix is one group, we're not. We're part of the same community, so it's continuing to grow those partnerships is what we're looking forward to.
I do have to give a big shout out to the Portland chapter's Trail Mix Slack channel, because there's so many different channels and topics that people can contribute to. You know, it's awesome having these spaces in real life and then continuing having conversations online and sharing stuff and events. And that's kind of the hub of finding out where you can go on a group run next, or where you can volunteer your time at, or the next best restaurant in Portland. And then also Vivian sends out some amazing newsletter emails with all the different events and opportunities of scholarships people can apply to, you know, different races you can participate in.
I have a lot of fun creating these newsletters and sharing opportunities that other people didn't know about, promoting other groups, promoting other organizations. I think as a community, like I said earlier, our goal is to uplift one another and empower each person to take on their own role as they evolve within the community.
So if somebody listening is interested in trail mix, they're saying this is exactly what I'm looking for, what is the best way of going about being a part of it?
So specifically Trail Mix does have an Instagram, Trail Mix Collective. Uh, and there's also for the Portland chapter, we do have, as Vicky mentioned, a very, very active Slack channel. There's monthly, on the Instagram itself, there are monthly events that are released, that are being led by the different community leads. However, again, this being a community, our Slack channel has unofficial events or meetups from those within the community. For example, this last weekend, someone wanted to go backpacking to get away, posted, and it was encouraging to see others like jump in and join. So if for those that are interested, certainly following on Instagram, or going to the Trail Mix website and signing up to receive the email notifications, the monthly notifications from Vivian, where we can also share the Slack invite as well for them to join.
I just wanted to add, joining these community spaces where you might not know anyone, it's really important to just show up each and every time. Despite how nervous we can all be in showing up. I was terrified when I started the run club myself. I was so nervous being a host. And every run, I still have to shake off some nerves when I meet new people. But the goal is always to keep showing up and building those relationships over time. And you never know how they will evolve. And you never know if you're going to meet your next best friend. So I do encourage everyone who's interested in a sport or a community and making friends, just keep showing up. You never know what will happen unless you show up.
Well, I'm really glad the two of you have shown up and created this space for people to show up and continue creating space for more people. It's just a beautiful thing. And thank you for bringing that to this community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, folks, that will do it for us for today. But until next time, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel, as well as hereisoregon.com.
Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoyed the show. And if you want to support this podcast as well as our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find details at OregonLive.com/pod support. Also, if you're a fan of the show and you're interested in potentially sponsoring it, you can get in touch with our marketing people at advertise@oregonian.com. This episode of the show is produced by me, Vicky Connor, alongside Jamie Hale.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.